Michelle here, and in this video I'm going to be doing my very first ever sketchbook tour as requested by this lovely person right here. But before we get started, if you're new here, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button to join the Cloudy Club, and while you're there, make sure to ring that bell to get post notifications so that you're notified every time I make a video. I post videos Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays when things go right. So without further ado, let us get started here. So if you've seen my room tour, you probably have seen these things. These are my binders that I keep all of my art in because I don't actually keep sketchbooks. Once I use a sketchbook, I take the art out of it and put it in these binders that are categorized. So instead of going through particular sketchbooks from particular times in my life, we go through each category from the start date, which is as early as 2007 to as late as now, or close enough. So for this video, we are going to start with all of my various fan arts that I've ever done ever. Okay, so I'm gonna have to hold this up like that pretty much the entire time, so if it gets all shaky, then that's why. The first thing here you're going to see is my very first ever award for art, and that is in 2003 because I have high artistic achievements or something like that. So I've kept it in there because that's the only thing from my childhood regarding art that I've ever been able to keep. So then we get on to the cringe of childhood. This, as you can see, is my tween years. This is when 2007 started, and that was when I actually decided that I was going to start using art as a career, I guess, like working towards the art career sort of thing. And at the time I was also very obsessed with the Jonas Brothers, and so that is why you have a very poor version of Nick Jonas here, which is I tried. The same year we have a Spider-Man. Now this one in particular I actually traced, so it might be hard to tell because the outlines are so terrible, but I traced the anatomy itself, and then the rest of it I kind of just figured out. So yeah, solid color, not very impressive, but impressive for the time that it happened. Then I did Toad. This was all the same year. I kind of just filled a sketchbook with like random characters, and I had this thing with like actually putting their titles with them too. Oh look, Kingdom Hearts, you guys. This was the very first time I ever attempted to draw the characters from Kingdom Hearts, and as you can see, I have improved quite a bit. Quite a bit. Next we have Yoshi, which I think I did this one by hand. Yeah. I think the only one I didn't do by hand was this Spider-Man. The rest of them I did do by hand. Maybe I didn't trace it because I don't see any weird lines that would imply that I did. No, I did. Yep. Nope, I did. You can see like these little lines right here where it's sunken in more, and that's because I actually put a comic book over this. Please, comic book people, don't hate me. I put a comic book over this, and I put pressure on the comic book with a pencil to leave the imprint on the paper below it so that I could then use that as guidelines to draw. So that's how I did comic book characters in the beginning. I ruined so many comic books doing that, but they were all really cheap and you can get them pretty much anywhere, at least the ones I was using. So now we go back to the Yoshi page right here. We have Sid the Sloth from Ice Age, and I did this one by hand as well. I think the superhero ones are really the only ones that I ever really did tracing. And then this one is Jack Skellington, which is obviously also done by hand. Beautiful. Then we skip all the way from 2007 to 2013 when I attempted my first attempt at watercolor, which instantly is like, wow, that's significantly different. And that's because most of the work that I had in between that was digital, and most of the work I'm doing now is also digital. So earlier on there was a lot more, and then now is when we start getting into like random sketches that I used for like practice or designs, like practicing my own style, or just sketches that I would use to scan in to then turn into a digital thing. This one ended up being digital, but I liked the sketch so much that I actually just left it in. This is me making notes and trying to figure out how to draw my own versions of Robin and Nightwing. I don't do this. I don't do it this way anymore, obviously. This is just experimenting with some style. Also experimenting with some comic book style. This, I have to say that these things happened, not 2013, but 2014 possibly, because I remember doing this when I had my first job, and that was around 2014. So, we've got a nice Catwoman here, some Nightwing, some James Gordon, we got Spoiler, we got Alfred, over here we've got Oracle as, Barbara Gordon, more Robin, that one looks weird, some Dick Grayson, a second Nightwing, trying out some Batman and some Bruce, until we finally get to this guy right here, which actually doesn't look half bad. I actually like most of the things that, well, not most of the things, but the things that happened on this page. Then, this is what I drew as a way, sorry about the shine, as a way to kind of like, what I did when I was younger is I would draw things traditionally, I would scan them in, and then I would try and figure how to add the color, and it didn't really work as well as I thought it would, but it worked. So this is what this one ended up looking like, so I just kept the original sketches because I liked them. And this was another page I did the same day. I actually dated this one, yay, 2015, where I drew a lot of the Teen Titans, and I ended up doing a Beast Boy right here, saying chicks dig pointy ears, which I use that line for Piccolo a lot for some reason, because he's green and he has pointy ears, and he's the only character from Dragon Ball Z that I care about, just because he's green and he has pointy ears, so chicks dig pointy ears. Then we have this thing, which was the very first thing I ever sold. I'll put up a better version of this because I do have this digitally. This was 2016, so things have definitely escalated after that. Then we have Kim Possible. Now this was done by hand, was not traced whatsoever. I want to stress that because I've said repeatedly that I am terrible at the Kim Possible style, and I am. The only reason I was able to do this is because I was holding a DVD case with this image on it, so I was able to reference that literally right next to what I was drawing, and it's the only reason this exists. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do this, so yay! Then we get onto the cringy parts. That's not as cringy as 2007 Nick Jonas fan art, but it's pretty close. So this is a sketch and some line art of Sora in what would turn into my current original style, and a lot of things are really weird. And it ended up being this after it was colored, and it doesn't look, it doesn't look that bad. I actually kind of like the way that the Keyblade looks. It's very angular, very pointy. I like it. Normally I don't do angular, pointy things, but he's Sora, so angular and pointy is what happened. And it's just, like, I feel like the leg is bent too much, and there's a lot of things that have a lot of issues. But we're getting on to my Steven Universe phase. I love Steven Universe, and back when I first discovered it, around 2016, wow, I was late to that party, but discovered it anyway, which is amazing. And so I decided to start practicing Steven Universe characters because I liked the style, even though it is like that popular CalArt style that's been going around, with like Steven Universe and Gumball and the new Thundercats Psy, but I decided I wanted to practice it anyway because I really liked the proportions of things, and so I used that sort of as influence to create one of my own original characters who is known as Ishu, which we will talk about at some point, but probably not in this video. Then, this is also 2016. I did this thing for a while where I sketched a character every single day. And that happened for like a week, maybe two, and for some reason, depression always gets in the way and kind of breaks that habit, and then I forget after that and just don't continue. So I try not to put pressure on myself like that anymore and like force myself to really do something every day if I know it's going to mess with my mental health, because you're not expected to do things every day. You don't have to, and I think that's something that people should remember. It's that just because somebody else is doing something every single day and they're practicing consistently doesn't mean everybody else is able to do that too. It's not always about like discipline and not being lazy. Sometimes there are other things that get in the way of it also, and you don't have to pressure yourself to be perfect and do things perfectly all the time, consistently. It's okay to not be consistent, you know? You're a human. There are things that happen. So, this was the first attempt at that. And then the second day, I did Star Butterfly, which I actually love the detail in this because sometimes I actually do things pretty okay. Neither of these characters were traced, though it looks like it. I promise you, if those hips don't show how genuine this is, I don't know what does. So these are characters that I'm very familiar with, and they have very similar styles, even though if you're new to art, you probably can't tell how these are similar, but to me they have very, very similar things that make one, if one is able to be drawn, then the other one should be able to be drawn as well, and that's just because I've picked out those similarities and have learned to do those things. This is also very similar. I don't know if you can tell, in the face of Star, there's that really round, bubbly face, and then if you turn to Mabel here, there's again that really round, bubbly face, which Gumball has, which Steven has, which Amethyst kind of has. It's a very popular thing that's been going on, so that's one of the things that I mean, where if you could draw one modern character, you could probably draw the other ones. Then we have one of my favorites, which is Peridot right here. You can see that there was like a very large, very large time gap. There's like the 13th, and then all of a sudden over here it just went to, what is that, the 25th? So, didn't succeed in the whole doing it everyday thing, but I tried, and that is pretty much the end of that. So now let's look at what's in the pockets, because there are some things in the pockets. I don't remember what's in this, but we can start with not that one, because that's not fan art. So that one is going to be saved for something else. But there's this, which is Shaggy, which was also not traced, even though it looks like it. I cannot do this again. Don't ask me. I didn't trace it, but there's no way that I could do this again. I was looking at a very particular image when I did it, and the only reason it looks that good is because I kept thickening up the lines to make sure that they were at the right angle and stuff. So then this is actually very similar to what it started as, and then I just thickened up the lines around there so they looked less sketchy and a little more refined. And then I attempted to do quite a few Pokemon at that time, just because I had friends who were very into Pokemon. This is supposed to be something from Naruto. Don't murder me in my sleep. I don't even know what it is. I understand it looks terrible, but yeah. Then the rest of it is not fan art. Then we can go back here, which is something that I really don't actually feel like showing, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is part of my cartoony style, some superhero practice-y things that I've never shown anybody. This is the sort of like rough kind of experimenting sort of things. Like this was my page where I put down the experimental, like testing out poses and stuff for what ended up being this, which I don't remember if this was a yes, it was a commission. And so this is what I was doing to try and figure things out. I was practicing like the face and different poses, and I ended up going with this one. It has all the arrows there, but you can see I tested quite a bit of things. I really like this one here and this one. Like, it looks really, really goofy, which I'm a huge fan of when it comes to Harley Quinn, but this is the one I ended up going for because I feel like you could see her figure more,
and I wanted to practice the figure thing, but this is a really good pose. That's a really good pose. I just kind of need to refine them a bit. And then there is some Spider-Man, which is horrible. And I don't know how to do any of the squints and squats, and that's why it looks like this. This actually ended up being a commission as well, and if you can see this down here, this is the pose that it ended up being, which looks better here than it does on the actual thingy. I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but Spider-Man is difficult in the sense that his poses are very difficult and very contorted. So he's a very simple character, but in order to do him properly, you have to make him doing some cool Spider-Man pose, which I cannot do. Then, the very last thing I have hidden in here is my first attempt at stylistically drawing Ellie from The Last of Us in 2014, and never used this style again, don't even know what it is, but it kind of looks like her, so yay! And then there's just like random Keyblade designs back here that I actually never used. So that is all of the various fan arts that I've collected over the years. There should be more, but fortunately there is not.
So that was that. I hope that was somewhat interesting. You could really see how things started from like crap and cringe to, you know, the different styles and layers of experimentation during different years and periods of my life, and how things changed and became the way that they are now, and that will kind of solidify more. That image will solidify a little more once you see the other binders of the other things, because there are other things that have a little more of that transition, and when you put them all together you can really see all of the things from one time period and then all of the things from another time period, and it should be interesting. So if anybody's wondering the binders that I have left over, one here is Superheroes, then I have another one that is Mammal Camp, which is some original characters that I have had since 2007, then there's Ishu, that character that I mentioned before, some other original stuff that have not anything to do with either of those franchises, which is quite thick actually, because it's just all the random stuff that doesn't qualify as fan art. And so, if you guys are interested in seeing those other ones, let me know in the comments which of those you would be more interested in seeing, and then my next sketchbook tour video will be on those. So, once again, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join the club and turn on post notifications so that you know every single time I post videos, because I post videos 3 times a week and sometimes I don't, so you should know when it happens. But if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up so I know you did, and if you're wondering what I'm doing in between videos, you can follow me on Twitter, that is where I'm the most active, but I have a list of other social media down in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.